So, hello everyone, welcome. The guest with me, as you can see, needs absolutely no introduction, and it's always great fun to talk to somebody who you gain knowledge from, and also you happen to be somebody's fan. So, I like Professor Makran Paranjpe for standing out in an environment where generally, if you see in academia, not many people speak freely about their opinions, their ideas, and their. So he's one of those very well-known orator, public speaker, and very extremely good public speaker, great author. In fact, recently we did a roundtable on his new book on Vivekanand, and which went viral. It's very, very popular, that roundtable. So, Makranji, welcome to this. This is not
Um,
a media interview. This is not somebody's forum. I thought I'll tell you the purpose why we are here. But first, let me just welcome you. Thanks a lot that you are here, and we can still connect and speak during this isolation.
I know, I know. It's great. It's great to see you face to face again. And thank you for having me on I Am Buddha one more time. Thank you.
Oh yeah. So, see, my idea was what I realized talking to people, reading into lots of insights you get into social media and into people's mind where they are heading. I think right now everybody is thinking about future, the possible scenarios, because as you understand, human mind is always is seeking certainty, some kind of a security, some kind of a survival. And so people have lots of questions. And I realized that it's very possible that sitting at home, not doing anything, not seeing any face which you're not used to. I mean, this is the first time in people's lives when they are alone. So your mind can go in either direction. It can go feeling bored, getting irritated, depression, anxiety. There are a whole lot of things, negativity. हर समय अंधकार दिखे कि okay, what's going to happen? Will I lose my job? But I realize this is also one of the greatest opportunity which is facing the world, humanity, and especially India. That it's great time to dig out whatever positive resources we have, positive assets we have, take a account, make a balance sheet of what are the things which we wrongly deposited in our account. We should throw them out. What is it that we need? So I thought, who can be, and this is what I've been wanting to do specifically with you and nobody else for quite some time, because idea is not to have a debate. Idea is to find some kind of synchronized visualization, a collective visualization for the country, and voices like you and mine and lots of people will help if we just put our insights into the universe. So that is the intent why I'm talking to you. So this whole thing, I don't have to say anything. You know everything what is happening around us. What I want to know from you is, I assume you agree that it's a great opportunity. I don't have to probe you into that. I totally understand how you think and your positivity. If it is an opportunity, okay, hypothesis I'll put in front of you. If this is a great opportunity, then what is that opportunity?
Yes, I think Vivekji, you've put it really well. And today is Hanuman Jayanti. There's
Yeah.
no better day than today to be strong, concentrated, dedicated. And as we know, Hanuman was a great bhakt of Sri Ram, but he was also an awesome, energetic, and positive character. Even, when faced with an adversary as great as Ravan, I think there was a time in the Ramayana, even in the Kishkinda Kand, when Ram himself was weeping. He found Sita was gone. He didn't know what to do. And actually, Lakshman had to tell him that, look, come on, gather yourself and gather your strength. And in a way, remember who you are. You're not an ordinary person. So I think that coming back to your basic point, I think this is a great opportunity, not only for the nation, I'm going to come to that in a second, but for each one of us. Why? because this enforced lockdown forces us to go inward. We must confront, as you said, all our closet demons, the skeletons in our closet, so to speak. We need to have a spring cleaning. It is spring right now. Chuck out all the junk and look at the things which are worth being grateful for, worth conserving, And it's also time for rest, recuperation, and gathering our strength. As to the nation, I feel that we are going to come out much better than many other nations. This is not a comparative, should I say, image building exercise for us right now. Not at all. But the fact is that we've had far fewer deaths and far fewer infections than countries of our size. And I think the Prime Minister's proactive lockdown, is an extraordinary feat of human engineering. I think unprecedented in the history of humanity. I say that because, to ask 1.3 billion people to stay at home, and that too without coercion, it's 99% persuasion and 1% coercion. I think this kind of record is probably unheard of, unforeseen anywhere in the world. People are voting themselves emergency powers in other parts of the world, democratic countries, just to cope with the situation. And countries which are authoritarian, whether you call them, communist authoritarian like China or some other kind of authoritarian like Russia, even they are having difficulties. And when it comes to the United States, there's chaos out there. There's no proper lockdown. In New York alone, the cases are 500,000 today, and the deaths are mounting close to 10,000. World leaders like Boris Johnson are in intensive care. I think definitely India is much better off than these countries, and it is hoped that when the hot season sweeps across India by May, in another 15 days or 20 days, it's going to be over 40 degrees in many parts of India. Of course, the WHO says there's no correlation, but if the flu pandemic is anything to go by, our own body temperatures are 38 degrees. So, जब बाहर 45 degrees हो जाएगा, I don't think that's a very hospitable climate for the virus. So, overall, I feel that in terms of flattening the curve, we are ahead of the others, and possibly we may be, better, should I say, better off in a month or so than many other countries. And if we are properly prepared, if we go into some very careful planning, it seems to me that when the world reboots, so to speak, I think India will have a great chance to flatten the disadvantages. The world is flat, as Tom Friedman said long ago. I think that this flatness now is going to help us, even in terms of moving some of the manufacturing, some of the economic activity to India. And I think that we have a great opportunity to come out stronger. And coming back to the individual, the personal, the social, the familial, I think that हमारे यहाँ हमेशा कहा गया है कि एकांत में ध्यान करके अपने आप को शुद्ध करें, है ना? तो ये एक आत्म शुद्धि का पर्व है, हम उसको उस तरह लें और उससे आई थिंक हमारी ऊर्जा बढ़ सकती है और उसी तरह हमारा जो हम कह सकते हैं स्वबोध जो है, आत्मबोध है, वो बढ़ेगा. And I think that putting the two together, the personal, the social, as well as the national, I think there's a silver lining in this cloud.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And मेरी theory ऐसी है कि generally what happens is there are always, if you see, obviously there are two grand narratives which are always going on in this world. Sometimes it was imperialism versus something else, then it was communism versus liberal democratic values, and so world is always has two grand narratives going on. But besides that, there is also a living room narrative, which is okay, fine. This is the politics. I have opinions, but for my life, my own life, what do we need? So you'll find in India generally the drawing room narrative would be family is most important. This that बड़ों की इज्जत करनी चाहिए. That kind of narrative goes on, and generally in terms of values. And in materialistic world, the narrative used to be different. Okay, now you are 18. I'm not going to pay for you. Okay, and this is let's split our bills. So the society always keeps questioning these norms and values and practices and rituals non-stop. People who say, oh, why it's not reforming? It's not reforming, perhaps because some people are not discussing that. You know, I don't know. When I remember when why I'm going to give you a little background on this is because this is my theory. So, like for example, when Babri Masjid happened, at that time I remember I was in advertising and we were conducting some research, which had nothing to do with Babri. We were conducting a research for a detergent, to be launched in Uttar Pradesh. And I was sent by my agency to do the field job, and I was supervising that. So like I'm based in Kanpur, and then they go to different villages and come back, give report. And at that time you'll be surprised that most of the Hindu sample, people who were of Hindu faith, most of them said yes, for the larger narrative it is perfectly all right. People knew that. They said no, it was very important, पर हाँ, इस तरह से तोड़ना नहीं चाहिए था. So which I believe that human mind always has some conscience, some kind of awareness about the value system. They may not speak because the noise of the bigger narrative is so high that they don't say anything. It's not that the Muslim population is not cursing these tabligis right now. I know I have so many friends, they are talking about it, but they don't talk openly, so it never becomes part of a grand narrative. So a society which is self-correcting itself will correct. Therefore, I have strong faith and hope that human beings are going to change. As far as India is concerned, like you said, I also have very strong belief that we'll come out successful out of this. More successful. What is success even if one person has died? But we'll be at least better off than without losing a lot of life and all that. The drawing room discussion right now in the West is how to minimize needs. How are they going to live in scarcity? What is struggle? You know, things like that. What are we going to do if we can't party, can't go to bars and all these things? Hollywood, I have so many friends, they are discussing right now, oh, how we are going to make movies if we can't come together. And the minute humanity starts saying, what if it starts seeking answers, and the answers will be found mostly in Indian philosophy, in Indian value system. I'm not talking about the practice of Hindu value system. I'm talking about very academic, which is simple living, sada jivan, uch vichar, sattvic food. Sattvic does not mean boiled food. It means, yes, you don't, why consume toxic food? Then why possess things which you don't even need? Okay, so this want based society, want and desire based society will start looking more at need based value system. And that value system, I think Japan maybe have preserved. I don't think so. If you go to Tokyo, no, definitely not. India has still preserved in its middle class and below poverty line. So that is one very important thing which we can export to the world, and we can emerge as world's number one soft power. Because Ayurveda, need for Indian spices, need for Indian fruits, need for Indian way of living, need for Vairagya. I don't know, detachment is the right word for Vairagya or not, but Virakti or Vairagya, which means you are not chasing materialistic abundance, you are chasing spiritual happiness or whatever. So I think the world is going to seek that, and we have that knowledge. And that's where role for people like you will become important. And the second thing is, if we behave in a nice manner, um, if we conduct ourselves in a very nice manner, like India is already doing, I think Prime Minister is already helping without media talking about it. He's helping Pakistan, China, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. India is helping in some way or the other, all these countries. We are also helping America. If we take that kind of a very liberal kind of helping each other, cooperating rather than collaborating, then a lot of manufacturing can also shift to India. So purely on economic terms, I think India has two great advantages: to pitch itself as world's number one soft power, and the second thing is to pitch itself as world's number one manufacturing hub. If we can somehow achieve this in the next 5 years, then this whole dream about having a 5 trillion economy and becoming a Vishwa Guru, both the dreams will, I don't know, like Sri Aurobindo used to say that you can't go further down. Now from here, India can only rise above. So I think maybe that is the time has come. So this is my theory.
So
So
Vivekji, you've actually raised a number of points which are really important. I want to pick up, on three or four of them one by one. The first thing is this whole, Hindu-Muslim narrative, which is a kind of subterranean narrative that has been going on for a while. We had the partition, and prior to that, we had British imperialism for about 200 years. And before that, India was invaded, almost 700, 600 years of Islamic rule. And sadly, we still haven't found a new covenant. Now, what has happened in the coronavirus pandemic is for the first time, the fault lines of Indian secularism. You mentioned the Babri Masjid, but the fault lines of Indian secularism have, should I say, come out in the open in a manner which is not merely ideological and political, but also scientific. Let me explain what I'm saying. Now, the so-called liberal, leftist, secularist narrative would have been that don't mention the M word. Don't say that so and so, call them even the Tablighi Jamaats. उनको भी तबलीगी जमात मत कहिए, TJ कहिए, so that you somehow mask it, and you somehow are still in denial, and you say that obviously the virus doesn't care for your religious beliefs, and it's going to infect everybody alike. Absolutely true, absolutely true. And if you ask me, we should certainly not communalize or politicize, you know, the pandemic. I agree. But does it mean that we stop confronting facts? The fact that over 30% of all infections today in India, infections have gone over 5,000 even as we speak. Over 30% of these can be traced to the Tablighi Jamaat congregation, which continued even after the lockdown was announced. Now, are we going to hide these facts, or are we going to admit it without demonizing any particular community? So, what I'm trying to say is that a third way is emerging from that leftist, secularist, whatever you want to call it, liberal narrative where certain words are taboo, we are not allowed to talk about certain things, and the other reactive, you might say angry, reactive narrative. There's a third way. The third way being look at the facts. Let's confront the facts. And only when we admit to the facts that a change will happen. You just started by talking about how we need to change and how does change happen. You said, I think, correctly, that change happens through deep reflection, through contemplation, also when we are challenged, and through a crisis. You see, the word crisis itself suggests a kal chakra hota hai. And from crisis, you may go actually down towards death, or you may come up like the
yeah.
crisis of a disease. You're in a hospital, you go into ICU, wahan se you can come out and you can recover, or you can go down. I think this is the choice for humanity. So, to start off, I think this Hindu Muslim narrative should completely change after Corona, and change so that we foreground facts, we foreground science, and actually, the answer is not one ideology winning the other ideology, but everybody embracing facts and science when it comes to, simple things such as, are you going to get infected if you do not observe social distancing, regardless of what, some Maulana or some guru tells you? Yes, you will be infected because that is what the evidence is showing. So, evidence based thinking, I think, is one step towards that ideal of being a Vishwa Guru, not ideology based thinking. So, that's one aspect. Now, you mentioned two other things. You said that look at the Indian lifestyle. I completely agree. Think about how the virus originated in Wuhan, in the wet markets. We know that when nature is disturbed, there are animals who are reservoirs of viruses. They come in contact with human beings, and the virus jumps from animals to human beings. This is called zoonosis. Now, in India, a largely vegetarian diet and the observation of certain, lifestyle rules, the idea that मनुष्य और प्रकृति के बीच में एक संघर्ष नहीं, मगर एक सहिष्णुता होनी चाहिए, cooperation, as you said, not conflict. This way of looking at nature, I think, is very useful. And then you talked about Indian soft power. Think about what Ayurveda tells us. You see, so many ways in which we can, increase our immunity and resistance. Even simple things like turmeric, tulsi, which are a part of our daily lives. This way of living, a simple diet based largely on plants and, herbs like turmeric, tulsi, cumin, coriander, all these, or hari mirch, these becoming a part of our daily diet. And also, because Indians are exposed to microbes from a young age, we have greater microbial resistance, you see. So all these things are adding up to possibly a much lower death rate in India. Then you mentioned Indian soft power. As you said, simple living, high thinking, that basically a human being is not merely a body, but a human being is live consciousness. And consciousness can only be satisfied not through merely material, you might say, consumption, but जो चेतना है, चेतना का समाधान उसी से मिलेगा जो उसके जो तत्व हैं. तो for example, like suppose I'm having a cup of coffee. I might enjoy the cup of coffee, but I know deep inside that if I'm spirit, what I really crave is a spiritual satisfaction. A coffee, a good coffee may give me some stimulation. वो एक आधार बन सकता है, but deep down I know that even if I have 20 cups of coffee, if I have no mental satisfaction, if I do not have an inner consciousness of what is my own value system, or what is the good life, to use that word. Is a good life, having a huge penthouse or having a huge mansion somewhere, having a swimming pool, and, constantly consuming things which are brought from all over the world? Is that a good life? Or is the good life a self awareness, right, which embraces planetary consciousness? So these are very profound questions, and I think that India has always been suggesting, right from the beginning, from our Aranyakas, when, a lot of people, they left the courts, they left the cities, and they said, look, let's find out, what the deeper meaning of life is. And they went to the forests. And in a way, this is what we are. We are under a lockdown. We have to go into our own inner forests. And udhar we are confronted with the same truths that the rishis were confronted thousands of years ago, which is, simply speaking, that human beings, it's like a desire producing factory. We are desiring machines, as somebody said, Deleuze and Guattari. But these desires which multiply, and which can never be fully fulfilled. Even Gandhi said that. He said modernity breeds anxiety and unhappiness because it multiplies desires, but does not tell you a way to fulfill them. The only way to, proceed is to lock down on your desires and say, look, I must prioritize, and these are my desires. As you said in my drawing room conversation, my mom, who may be in a lockdown mode somewhere else, I have to talk to her every day and check up on her. My children, who may be in different parts of the world. Once I take care of some of these priorities or responsibilities, I come back to the most important question: what is the purpose of human life? Where is humanity heading? And when people go in that direction, I think they will turn to India, because in India, we haven't said give up everything and and basically, lock down your senses, starve your body. ऐसा हमने कभी नहीं कहा है. Nor have we said indulge yourself, you know, to the point of excess. We found the middle path, and it is through that middle path of balance, I think, that humanity itself might be saved. So I think the points that you make, that manufacturing may shift to India where conditions are conducive, for a ramping up of our capabilities, the soft power of India, the generosity, you know, of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, where we can send out a hydroxychloroquine or whatever it is to the United States. We don't need to be threatened. You know, we can give it happily and willingly and help our neighbors and stop this Hindu Muslim type of narrative, but go towards evidence based thinking. I think some of the points you mentioned are really vital for our rebooting.
Yeah, so yeah, I think we are moving in that direction, and it's see, I think what went wrong with the world was what is the cause, why it happened. So okay, scientists will come with a lot of theories and all, and I'm not one of those who think that science is the ultimate and whatever they say, yes, fine. If that's right, then science should have some answer. Nobody has an answer. Science knows nothing. WHO says one day that put on mask, one day says don't put on mask, one day it says it's from China, it's not from China. So everybody's shooting in the dark. So it's good time for people like us also to shoot some arrows in the dark. But there is one thing which is perfectly what I'm saying is right. Is that what went wrong with the world? We generally, what the mistake we make is we say the West thinks like that. And we forget that in the West, we say Western style or Western lifestyle. But West has Europe has so many poor countries. I mean, they are standing with begging bowls today. And Europe, UK is in its old population, retired population, no economy, no leadership. It's going nowhere. Kind of a country like पुराने दादाजी ताऊ जी कहीं बैठ रहे थे शादी में बेचारे कमरे में nobody cares हाँ बुड्ढे हैं इसलिए उनको चलो थोड़ा सा बुला लो तो actually when we say West we mean America, United States of America. If you look at this globalization, like secularism in India has been used as a tool for minority appeasement, similarly globalization I think is also used as a tool for Americanization. We have to understand if if there is any god, if there is some creator which all religions believe in, which the scientists believe in, if nothing else jo pratyaksh hai, what is visible objectively can be quantified is yes, there is a planet earth and it has different species and human beings are one of them. Okay, and human beings have the same right over resources as much as animals have or trees have or a blade of a grass has or a cockroach has. Everybody has the same rights depending on the proportions. So that is fundamentally, it's a rule number one. You cannot, it's not a theory, it's not a hypothesis, this is a simple obvious fact. And the second thing is that if we are part of the species, then every different culture, I'm not getting into geographical boundaries, but some kind of a homogeneous group, when they are different, Africans are different from Europeans, who are different from people in Middle Gulf and Middle East, are different from people in Turkmenistan and all these areas, then Indians, then Australians. So, like we preserve the flora and fauna in the a small part of nature which is forests and all those things, we are also part of the flora and fauna. We are diverse cultures, diverse thinkings, diverse looks, everything is so different, and that's what makes this planet earth so wonderful. But what Americanization started doing was it started making everybody uniform, because capitalism works only on two things: uniformity and standardization. Without standardization you cannot have assembly line. Without uniform taste, you cannot have global presence of McDonald's or Coca-Cola. You have to have uniform taste. That taste has to be developed, right? Christmas has to be converted into a religious belief, whereas it's a marketing exercise of Coca-Cola. So that's what, because I've worked in marketing with the top world's best companies, Procter and Gamble's and Coca-Cola's and Gillette's. So I know what goes inside the boardrooms. Somebody sits in New York, 10 people sit and they say, okay, that is, there are some 70 lakh numbers, means 70 lakh human beings. Okay, they have to believe in Coca-Cola. Now the entire army and the muscle goes and converts them into drinking Coca-Cola. You know, yeah. So see, look at today when people talk about democracy, tell me who's discussing Swiss democracy or French democracy or German democracy or Australian democracy. Everybody is thinking about American democracy. All the clickbaits, all the tweets, everything. So all the world's aspiration is uh, America. Okay, people don't take pride anymore in saying, okay, I was invited to some great German university or in University of Paris. Everybody wants to say I was invited to Harvard and MIT. European cinema is richer than Hollywood cinema any day. मतलब कहाँ मूछ के बाल हैं, कहाँ पूछ के बाल हैं. Korean cinema is far ahead of Hollywood. In fact, Hollywood produces most trash in the world. But everybody tells me, यार ऑस्कर मिलना चाहिए. I said, why Oscar मिलना? So everybody thinks in those terms. If America says yes, the world is getting hotter, people believe it. They say it's not good, right? So what happened? I'm not blaming America for whatever reason it happens. Even today, if you see which are the busiest company in the global lockdown, Google, Apple, YouTube, all American companies. Who's minting money right now in the crisis with data? American companies. Okay, so in the name of globalization, we destroyed cultures. This liberalization and all is very secondary. We started attacking all the, because if you have your local festivals, then we are going to buy things from Shiva Kasi and not made by some American firm. Not We are not going to send Hallmark greeting cards. Then we are going to write letters, and your mother will make some gharelu mithai. No, in Diwali nobody makes mithai. We just buy all these chocolates, which are made mostly by American companies or Swiss companies, I mean, who have those stakes. So I see a great opportunity for the the human flora and fauna, again to readjust itself. So I don't even care what the world believes in, but all these young millennials and IT graduates and the so-called people who want to belong and fit into that Western thing, who say my real experience comes when I go to New York, now they will be forced to go to on Himalayas or in some village in Kerala or Vardha maybe, or maybe Sabarmati ashram, and say, hey, there are very few people here. I want to go there. So it's like nature is also trying to help us out, and it's great opportunity for us to start understanding that we became so proud of our inventions and we thought science is everything. No, yes, एक scientist ने बोला है. So what? I mean, sometimes somebody who's illiterate can tell far superior things than that scientist. So हम लोगों ने ये मान लिया था जो साइंटिस्ट ने बोला है, प्रिंट मीडिया में जो लिखा गया है, और या किसी का रिसर्च वर्ड लग गया रिसर्च पेपर, दिस इज द वर्ल्ड्स अल्टीमेट ट्रुथ. And we are the landlords. We own this earth. We are the landlords, and all the resources are ours. It's only when the poor animals started dying, forests started collapsing, and all these glaciers started melting, and we said, where will we get water from? Then we said, no, we should preserve ecology. No, we are as much part of the ecology. You just do not interfere with ecology. You cooperate with ecology. Ecology will take care of you. The ecosystem will take care of you. Mother Nature will take care of you. और अपने अभी तो यही बोला है. कल मैं विवेकानंद का वो ट्रांसलेशन ऑफ पतंजलि योग सूत्र पढ़ रहा था. तो he also says that when Prakriti and Purush merge, then only there is wholesomeness. Then only of. So that's what I think. Now moving forward from here, what I want to understand from you is that definitely in India right now, whatever we say, there is a crisis and a crisis. Okay, and I believe that government is trying to do their best, because I see myself in our building. Police comes all the time. Their senior people come. They talk very politely. They make announcements. They say, please, old people, don't walk together, don't go out, and so they give us lots of tips and all that. So cutting across all the political ideologies, I think every single government is trying to do their best. Okay, and the uneducated people also understand quickly, because they have native intelligence which is far superior than our learned and academic knowledge, because they understand survival better than us, so their instincts are sharper. So that way India is behaving very well. Yes, there are 2-3 thousand cases of tablighi. Okay, we'll deal with it. We'll find out what can we do. Ab jo ho gaya so ho gaya. But as far as the entire discourse is concerned, incoming, this is the last thing we should discuss because a lot of millennials also listen to us, young people listen to us. I personally feel that the discourse in cinema, on social media, on in newspapers, magazines, television, news channels, political campaigning, everywhere regressed a lot. And we started saying things without meaning anything. People just started saying things for impact. Like people just put their pictures out for impact. It's not for appreciation. So everything is at the superficial level, just a quick gratification, quick impression. Let's make a quick impression. Let's get few RTs, let's get few likes. And in the process, the content started getting lost. If you remember when you and I and all of us joined Twitter, there were lots of interactions. We used to discuss. Now everybody has become in their shells and they just say their things. Nobody engages, nobody talks. Okay. And people troll. All that is fine. But what if you have a choice right now to change the discourse? So, A, what is wrong with it? Let's just analyze for people to understand what a professor or what an academician or author like you think about this. And second thing, if you have a choice, if you are the owner of all the communication, then what is it? Tell me from your heart, not something which you have learned in your life at this point of time. And you are given just 1 second to respond. Okay, this is what I'll do. What is that most important thing? If we do, then we are going to able to heal the society and make India a more productive and efficient country.
So, digital detox is very important because, the brain has mechanisms. Again, talking a little bit about science, we have a reward and punishment system in our brain. And what the social media does, whether it's Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, is it gets us hooked to what you just called instant gratification. The likes, you post something, you quickly want to see how many people have liked it. So I think this is also the time of digital detox. And otherwise, what's happening is that because of the anonymity of social media, the monster in you is coming out, in you, me, and our neighbors. And this monster is producing so much hatred. There's so much toxicity, that is being pervaded through social media. I think it's time to restrain ourselves when it comes to social media. Now, another thing that you brought out at the beginning of your, response, which I thought was very profound, is just as we shouldn't get stuck in this Hindu-Muslim kind of binary, we should also not be stuck in, let us say, the West versus India kind of binary. Okay, because or for that matter, science versus spirituality. That's another binary, science versus culture. Or you might say, elite knowledge versus sort of common sense. See, these are binaries we should try to avoid. I'll tell you why. Now, many people all over the world are trying to find a vaccine against COVID 19. And for all you know, America may be the first one. And we will all use that vaccine. It may be that India is the first one. I'm not ruling it out because I think we have some really smart people who are also on the job. So we can't be thinking that, oh, those guys are somehow, the bad guys. They want everyone to get Coca-Colaized or whatever it is, McDonaldized. I think that it's very important in this interregnum, call it the lockdown interregnum or the COVID-19 interregnum. What I call Swaraj. Swaraj means that each individual, apni chetna, ki jagrati karna. I think this for me, you ask me one thing, because what's happening in India is also the herd thinking. We are talking about herd immunity. But instead of herd immunity, what we've got is a herd mentality. And this is also true of India as much as other parts of the world. For example, आपने मास्क की बहुत अच्छी बात कही. A few days ago, people said masks are, not useful. Today, not just the WHO, but the CDC, everybody says a two-layer cotton mask is going to reduce, you know, the spread of the disease simply because little droplets like aerosol, infection, not just big droplet infection. So that's okay because that's evidence-based thinking. We must change. We can't get stuck. So today they may say salt is bad for you. Tomorrow they may say a little bit of salt is good for you. So that doesn't mean that science should be discredited. Science simply means that it's not dogma, but evidence that makes us believe or not believe something. And it can be falsified. There's no guru, there's no religious leader somewhere who says, look, this is true. No. Thousands of people are testing out a particular hypothesis. And when it is falsified, then you drop it. If it is verified, then you do further research. So what I'm trying to say is that this binary of, let's say, West versus India, or even US versus the rest, or, all of this, that's not going to help us. But what will help us is, as I said earlier, this Swaraj, the idea that each individual becomes a point of reference, a point of light, if you may call it, a critical individual. And we are not just listening to whoever it is, the greatest leaders in the world, and we respect some of these leaders. They can give us a direction. But if, because of this enforced
Yeah.
lockdown or isolation, can give us an opportunity to actually rouse and raise our own level of consciousness. So while we sort of listen to the leaders and obey directions or regulations, I think that this is a great opportunity for, Indians in general and the people in the world also to actually, become, what should I say, a point of reference, a point of light by raising consciousness. And this is what I call real Swaraj. Because, you talked earlier about Sri Aurobindo, and, he talked about the supermental descent and so forth, which people don't fully understand. But what he's trying to say is that the next big thing, in the world, in the history of humanity, is a planetary shift in consciousness. So the next big thing is not a scientific, but a consciousness revolution, right? But how can this revolution happen if we are not conscious, Vivekji? And I think that you talked about advertising, propaganda, whether political or or capitalistic or business related, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, the flattening of the world in terms of globalization, where cultures get sort of commodified and made identical. Now, all these things, what is the way to resist this, right? And on the other hand, you didn't speak of it, but that's also happening. Artificial intelligence. I mean, bots are taking over our lives. Everything is algorithms. You don't realize that whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever these platforms are, and you're absolutely right, these are the people still making money, but these are being more and more controlled by bots and not real people. So what do we do? The only thing we can do is raise our consciousness, okay? And then what is also interesting, it's like that Sistine Chapel, on the ceiling there's that wonderful painting by Michelangelo. There are two fingers. एक तो वो God's hand है, दूसरा Adam's hand है. But now it's like एक side से machine intelligence, artificial intelligence, technology जा रही है, और दूसरे side से consciousness or spirituality जा रही है. So you see, what I'm trying to say is that the consciousness revolution can only happen by a combination of yoga on the one hand and technology on the other, because you can't exclude technology. And the world of science, the world of medicine, all of these, and they've figured out a way to understand, the human being or nature in ways that we did not have, frankly, even 3,000-4,000 years ago, because we were not going in that direction. But what they lack is what our rishis and others had, which is going inward and micro sensing the different layers of the mind and consciousness, which science is not able to do even today, because science is not able to grasp who the subject is. It's only understanding the object, not the subject. So, this is a very subtle point. But what I'm trying to say is that until we take both of these together, there is a
Yeah,
deep
so we are
knowledge.
talking about primarily lifestyle change, basically. In China, they have found out the research. I was just reading it, the scientific research. It says that most of the people who have died, who are not old, who are not like 70, 80 years old, people who are 16 to 45, 50-year old, the maximum number which runs into like almost 90% plus are overweight people and people who don't walk, people who have not walked. And US also the same statistics they are coming out with, that most of the people, in fact, I was listening to one doctor, he said most of the people who are dying, I'm not even sure if they are dying of COVID, because right now everybody is being passed like that, but they are dying of respiratory
Failure.
syndrome because their lungs are so
Yes.
weak, because most of the people are just sitting, becoming couch. In that sense, I was saying, just because it's technology doesn't mean it's always good. So our over dependence on technology and making it like God, like we believe in God. So if we believe in one abstract, then we also believe in another abstract, that science and technology have all the answers. If you see in most of the, I'm not anti-science, I'm a science graduate, so I can never be anti-science. So I'm very scientific, but at the same time, I try to maintain a balance of, I am equally impressed with Patanjali's knowledge of human body. And I write also very often, I say that the difference between Patanjali's knowledge or yogic knowledge and the scientific knowledge about human body is that they learned it on alive bodies, whereas the modern science has learned about human body on dead bodies. And alive bodies and dead bodies are different bodies. So these are two different researches. These have got two different results. You cannot, because scientists say, oh, there is no empirical evidence of what Patanjali said. I don't know. Yes, it's good to stretch. Yoga is one of them. No, it's not that. It's far higher than that. So for me, that entire theory of chit and vritti and all that, to me, it's real science. Okay, now it's a real science like this science. All I am saying is that when this science starts saying, oh, this Vedic knowledge is all wrong, and why this and why that, and throw it out, and because they have muscle, because all the money of the world is not behind native knowledge, it's behind all the academic knowledge, because that's where all the money, that's a factory, that's a machine. So it's commerce. This one is not commerce. Your dadi ka nuksa can never be commerce. But Haldiram's pact thing, which is also dadi ka nuksa, is commerce. So in America they are saying, मैंने उस दिन लिखा था ट्विटर में कि जब शुरू हुआ था कोविड, when it just started and nobody was writing about this, I said that turmeric, lemon, and Indian way of this thing, they are they increase your immunity. So fact checkers and all these alt news and the print and the quint and all those wrote against me. They said the film Vivek Agnihotri is spreading propaganda, fake news. They thought it was fake. And now every single, I was reading New York Times and they have an article why people should go and buy turmeric and ginger, and turmeric is sold in bottles, as a medicine, right? So that's what I'm saying, that sometimes we should give equal respect, and we should also try to dig out the insights from the native knowledge, because native long knowledge is based on experience, and it has come over generation after generation after generation, whereas this knowledge has just come up now. Why who's the richest person in the world, who's the strongest person in the world, which is the number one country, and who should we believe at this point of time right now, right? तो जो हिंदी फिल्मों में कहते हैं कि बेटा अब दवा दारू जो हम कहते हैं, तो अभी हमको जब कहते हैं ना कि अब दवा से काम नहीं चलेगा, अब तुम्हें दुआ की जरूरत है,
Dua ki
तो we
zarurat hai.
need both, we need dava
That's
as
what
well
I'm
as
saying.
dua.
That is exactly what I'm saying. That this binary between Indian knowledge systems or Dadima ke nukse and this dominant knowledge system, as you rightly said, which flattens out all other systems, in fact, destroys them, sometimes even steals from these systems, patents it, and again sells it. See, what I'm trying to say is when consciousness revolution has to happen, you have to get out of that binary mindset. And I think the knowledge of tomorrow will be a combination of these two. And
Right.
the combination will not be 1 plus 1 equals 2. It will be 1 plus 1 equals 22. Something completely different is going to come out of it, I feel. And it's only, the green shoots of that. We don't know ye kahan jaane wala hai. And we're all struggling in our own little silos, and sometimes, as you said, so much of our energy just goes in combating the static, because as you said, you get pilloried and you get trolled and you get, really abused. And a lot of your energy goes in that. But I think more and more, we need a sort of voluntary, international, civil service of people, who want to serve the world, who want to serve humanity, who want to bring about the next quantum leap in human progress. And these are not people who are either marketing themselves merely or wanting something from the world. These are people who are reasonably content, who have reached a certain level of inner satisfaction and comfort, outer comfort, because they are high achievers. Like, you're a high achiever. I mean, they threw you out of Bollywood, and look, you have proved that you can reinvent yourself. So, I mean, it'll be people like you, it'll be, other people all over the world. And these are not selfish people कि अपनी ही सोच रहे हैं. So I think a synergy among such people all over the world will produce new knowledge, will produce new hope, and will produce that network, of neurons, that neural network, which will produce the new understanding that we need to cope with planetary crisis. Because I must say, Vivekji, we've had, you know, decades of this discourse of socialism, egalitarianism. If someone were to ask me, what would I like to invest in for tomorrow? I want to invest in genius schools, not like those X-Men where everybody's a freak. But, in Dharavi or somewhere, there may be somebody who's a mathematical genius. We don't know about it. And I'd like
You
their
will get
families.
to, we will find a lot, because after every crisis, you see genius always comes out after the crisis. Because genius is so deep that earth has to shake a lot before it can, erupt and come out. So yeah, wonderful. But as far as socialism is concerned, I know everybody knows our allergy to certain kind of thinking. But today, look at the power of China, that the entire world has become socialist. Every government has become a welfare government. What else do you need? So I think
See,
Makhanji, we
see,
really exchanged some good.
China is a very capitalist country,
I
and
know,
it
I know.
succeeds because it combines capitalism with authoritarianism. But
Yeah.
welfareism is a very old idea which came out of a
And welfare is
critique
a
of
good thing. I
capitalism.
am always
It's
pro
a good
welfare. I'm never
thing.
against welfare.
It's a
And
good thing.
I
What
think, I
is
think.
PM Cares? PM Cares is a way to deliver that welfare to
Oh
those
yeah,
who
yeah,
need it
yeah.
the most.
And I think, I my dream is, it's a utopian dream, but I think, or maybe it will happen. Who knows? Who knew that one day communism would go? Sorry, the colonies will be over and Britain. Who knew? So I think a system will come, and the governments, the only role they will play, they will be more like socialist entrepreneur. They are like going to be the federation of all the charity work which happens in the country, and their job only will be to distribute the public goodwill, to distribute goodwill in terms of cash, kind. If somebody says, okay, I want to build a hospital, their job should only be to help these people like consultant, okay, where you should be building. Their job should be to go to industrialists, world governments, and say, okay, help us out, our poor people. Rest will be run by all these genius you're talking about. And that's how I think the world is going to, because see, we are sitting at home right now. What role can government play in your life? Tell me. Anyway, government runs just 16 to 17% of GDP. So government, just to prove their authority, they have got colleges under them, universities under them, this fishery institute, that research institute. Defense they will keep, which government should keep. Foreign affairs government should keep. And things like that, or general communication. Matlab mujhe, if I have to reach you, how will I reach? There should be one train or one flight, or government should be available. So basic means very basic. Rest of the things should be left to Indian enterprise. And the minute Indian enterprise is thrown into the crisis and said, now you have no my baap. So we have a track record of showing up, the best at the top, because that's what we are good at, surviving, intellectually surviving in a crisis. And that's why you will see that a lot of lower middle class boys and girls, they don't know English, have no money, they are thrown into this ocean of America and competitive world, and suddenly from nowhere they invent email, suddenly they become something, they know how to survive, and they generally become rich, because the main reason is that we come from scarcity mindset. We know how to survive without something. Okay, whereas in most of the world they come from abundance mindset, and it's difficult for them to deal with the new crisis. That's why you'll see the jokes which are taking place in American and Western social media are so different from Indian, because Indian jokes are centered around मेरी माँ ने ये खाना बनवाया, इसने ये किया, मैंने बर्तन धोए. They are dealing with a different crisis. Oh my God, I have not been able to go out, where to take my dog, my car. There is more worldly. So anyway, so wonderful talking to you. We should keep chatting like this. I'm sure that both of us express our own vision for this world, and the genius will be discovered like this when we fill the universe with great ideas. 1 billion Indians, the day they fill the universe with great ideas, उसके बाद कल्याणी लिखा है और कुछ हो नहीं सकता.
Thank you, Vivek ji.
Thank
I
you.
wish you all the best in this endeavor. Even in the lockdown, a creative person like you cannot be stifled, and you're still doing wonderful things to uplift us and to make us feel better and give us hope. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaskar.